Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
When God calls you to do a task, He equips you for it. That's what takes it from mission impossible to mission possible. Hi, it's the Bible for Busy People. I'm Erica, your host. How do you feel about hanging out with the man of God, Elisha, again today? Join me now in 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 8. One day, Elisha went to the town of Shunem. A wealthy woman lived there, and she urged him to come to her home for a meal. After that, whenever he passed that way, he would stop there for something to eat. She said to her husband, "I am sure this man who stops in from time to time is a holy man of God. Let's build a small room for him on the roof and furnish it with a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp. Then he will have a place to stay whenever he comes by." One day, Elisha returned to Shunem, and he went up to this upper room to rest. He said to his servant Gehazi, "Tell the woman from Shunem I want to speak to her." When she appeared, Elisha said to Gehazi, "Tell her, we appreciate the kind concern you have shown us. What can we do for you? Can we put in a good word for you to the king or to the commander of the army?" "No," she replied. "My family takes good care of me." Later, Elisha asked Gehazi, "What can we do for her?" Gehazi replied, "She doesn't have a son, and her husband is an old man." "Call her back again," Elisha told him. When the woman returned, Elisha said to her as she stood in the doorway, "Next year, at this time, you will be holding a son in your arms." "No, my Lord," she cried. "Oh, man of God, don't deceive me and get my hopes up like that." Before we go on, I just want to say, God knows. He sees those hopes that you hide from everybody else. And I'm here to remind you that we serve the God of hope, and He hasn't forgotten you. Verse 17 now. "But sure enough, the woman soon became pregnant. And at that time, the following year, she had a son, just as Elisha had said. One day, when her child was older, he went out to help his father, who was working with the harvesters. Suddenly he cried out, 'My head hurts! My head hurts!' His father said to one of the servants, 'Carry him home to his mother.' So the servant took him home, and his mother held him on her lap. But around noontime, he died. She carried him up and laid him on the bed of the man of God, then shut the door and left him there." I want to point out here before we move on to verse 22, this is an act of faith. She was placing her son in the hands of God by laying him on the bed of Elisha, a man she knew had a strong connection to God, a strong faith. And I believe it showed her strong faith that I'm sure was wavering in these terrifying moments. Okay, verse 22 now. She sent a message to her husband. "Send one of the servants and a donkey so that I can hurry to the man of God and come right back." "Why go today?" he asked. "It is neither a new moon festival nor a Sabbath." But she said, "It will be all right." Do you notice here that this woman is not panicking? She's not even going to her husband like I would and go, oh no, our son died." She is squarely placing her hope in God, and it's beautiful to see. Verse 24 now. "So she saddled the donkey," another act of faith, "and said to the servant, 'Hurry, don't slow down unless I tell you to.'" As she approached the man of God at Mount Carmel, Elisha saw her in the distance. He said to Gehazi, "Look, the woman from Shunem is coming. Run out to meet her and ask her, 'Is everything all right with you, your husband, and your child?'" "Yes," the woman told Gehazi, "everything is fine." Now, wait a second here. Why is she telling him that? I don't know myself. I'm not a theologian. I can only imagine now that God has given her the peace that passes understanding. I have felt this in moments when my son was so sick. I remember when he was battling ulcerative colitis, his hemoglobin was at a level 4. And if you know anything about these things, and boy, I hope you don't, he could have died at that point. I had no idea. But it's almost as if that Bible verse in Psalm 91 that talks about when God promises to cover us with his feathers and give us refuge under his wings, it felt like that. It was like that verse come to life. It's like God wraps you in this bubble wrap of his love, and suddenly you can deal with things that otherwise would just make you feel like you were going crazy. How can this be happening? You just want to scream and cry and beg God for help. But this woman is just quietly trusting that everything is fine, that it really is going to be okay. It's wild faith. Verse 27, but when she came to the man of God at the mountain, she fell to the ground before him and caught hold of his feet. Gehazi began to push her away, but the man of God said, leave her alone. She is deeply troubled, but the Lord has not told me what it is. Then she said, did I ask you for a son, my Lord? And didn't I say, don't deceive me and get my hopes up? Then Elisha said to Gehazi, get ready to travel. Take my staff and go. Don't talk to anyone along the way. Go quickly and lay the staff on the child's face. But the boy's mother said, I love this woman, as surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, I won't go home unless you go with me. So Elisha returned with her. Gehazi hurried on ahead and laid the staff on the child's face, but nothing happened. There was no sign of life. He returned to meet Elisha and told him, the child is still dead. When Elisha arrived, the child was indeed dead, lying there on the prophet's bed. He went in alone and shut the door behind him and prayed to the Lord. Then he lay down on the child's body, placing his mouth on the child's mouth, his eyes on the child's eyes, and his hands on the child's hands. And as he stretched out on him, the child's body began to grow warm again. Elisha got up, walked back and forth across the room once, and then stretched himself out again on the child. This time, the boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Maybe there's a situation for you and you see no sign of life in it. Let me leave you with Romans 4:17. This is where God is described as the one who brings the dead back to life and who creates new things out of nothing. You are loved. Thank you for making time for the Bible for Busy People today. If being part of this community is a blessing to you, it's super easy to share this podcast with someone you love. We're all about spreading the hope of Jesus like butter. So if you've got a moment to write a review, boy, we'd really appreciate that. Maybe you need a little prayer today, or you're ready to take that next step with God. I invite you to check out our show notes. You're going to find lots of encouragement there. This podcast is one branch on a tree called Purposely, a podcast network designed with practical podcasts to help you find and thrive in God's purpose for your life. If you've got a pulse, you've got a purpose.